Roller.
Interview of Mr. Alfred Francis Lapp on 14 March 2001, the Oneonta Armory. Interviewer is Lieutenant Colonel Robert Von Hassel. Videographer is Mr. Wayne Clark. Mr. Lapp, tell me, where and when were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
What part of Brooklyn?
God, somewhere in the Ridgewood section or something down there, you know. I can't think whether it was Bleecker Street, I think was the name of the street I was born on.
I take it you didn't grow up in Brooklyn?
No, I did not. I moved to East Rockaway when I was 1.5 years old. My mother and father bought a home there. My father worked down in Wall Street and for a big brokerage firm. And we moved there. I had, as I said, my brother, and I had, well, I didn't have the other sister, but I had the one sister, a brother, you know, older than me. They're both since gone. My brother was lost in Pearl Harbor. And we lived there. And then, of course, nobody had the draft. You know, you rented for the draft. And of course, along came World War II. And I tried to join the Navy because my buddy in school, he was joining the Navy, and of course they didn't take me. At that time I wore glasses. I don't know what, you know. So I was drafted, and I went to the Limbrook Railroad Station, and from there I went to the Camp Upton, which is out on Long Island, and was there exactly 1 day, and I was on KP while I was there, sworn in, and then, you know, then we left that morning for Camp Gooba, Oklahoma, because we didn't know exactly the name at that time. And they had reactivated, as I said, the 88th Division, which was at that time stagnant. You know, it was a number, but was not used. And we landed at, we arrived at Fort Bragg, Oklahoma, which is a bar and a general store. That's all it was. It was a stop of it, you know. And we were by 6 by 6. We were transported to Camp Room, which we were the first ones there. It was just, you know. So that's where we stayed all through our basic training. And then when the basic training was over, then of course, 88th Division was composed of California, people from out west, people from down south, from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York, like me. See, that's the whole of the thing. I was assigned to the 351st Infantry, the anti-tank company, and that time there was only 37mm guns. And we went through the whole basic there, you know. And of course, while we were there, you know, they 38 years old, they changed the law then. They were allowed to, they put them out. We lost a few people there. There was quite a few older people in my company there, the 351st Infantry, from that were over 38 years old. So they were shoveled out. And then we went to Louisiana on maneuvers, and we're down there for, I can't think how long it was for the maneuvers, must have been weeks or so. And then I went with a lieutenant, and we were the advanced party, and I drove the Jeep and he sat alongside me, and we traveled all along the way to let the local constabulary and everybody know that we were coming there, and it was going to be a train, you know, a truck train, like, you know. So we stopped, I'll never forget, we stopped in a sheriff's office there. It was just a little, you know, place. There was a guy in the jug there in the jail, you know, and it was funny, yeah. So anyhow, we told the sheriff that we were, you know, watch out, there was one big crossroad there, you know. So then we kept on going, and we went to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, you know. And we were told where we were going to be, the barracks. And but we didn't stay there but a couple of days in the barracks. Saw the beautiful barracks, you know. And you saw that, you know, there's a beautiful hospital there too. But they put us up there for a while, but then boom, they said they can't pull us. That's the big tent like outside of San Antonio. Well, we were there, I guess, maybe a month, a little bit over a month, I guess. And they then sent us to Camp Patrick, Henry, Virginia. That was the embarkation point, you know. And we were there a little bit, quite a little bit, till I guess they got, you know, and then we boarded living ships. There was a convoy of 120 ships, protected by the Navy Armed, well, the Armed Guard was on the ships, you know what I mean, in fact, I can remember saying to one of the guys, how does this thing work? He says, a BB gun. I mean, because the whole front was all cement, you know what I mean? Protection for the pilot house. No, it was good. It was fine. We had a couple of scares on the way over there with submarines, but nothing seemed to develop. And we landed after, I don't know how long it took us. It took us quite a while, I know that, because they don't go that fast, 120 ships, you know what I mean? And we were surrounded constantly by naval vessels, protection. And we landed in Oran, which was, the name is not used anymore, in Africa. And we landed there, and we boarded the old 40 and 8 boxcars. And they shoveled us up towards the front. The front was still up there, the British were there, you know. I don't know if there was any French there or not, there might have been. But the British had a lot, and they had a lot of those other, their Indian troops or whatever, you know. And we got up there, and then we were on the line there, you know. And finally, it worked out that the Germans surrendered, you know what I mean? They were on their way down anyhow, so they surrendered. Well, after they surrendered, they were anticipating the invasion of southern France. So we were all brought down, you know, at least I was in that, brought down to the pier there, and they had the, you know, the thing painted on the Jeep there on the side, that blah, 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 for the, you know, the colors for getting on the boat, landing over there. Well, we were there, we were sitting there. Finally, they called it off and said, no, we're not going to use your division to go into southern France. And we backed up and went around and got on a, I guess that was a French boat, or it was one of those cruise ships that floated the Mediterranean, you know, for cruising. And we got on there, and it was run by the British. You know, I don't know if you know anything about British food, you know, their bully tea and the other crap, you know. But anyhow, we went across the Mediterranean, came around Gibraltar there, you know, and we landed at Naples. And of course, then we went on the front for the Fifth Army. We become part of the Fifth Army, and we went on the front, you know. They were at that time they were attacking Monte Casino, you know. They were, because once they got through there, we went north, you know, and we lost actually a battalion there that faced battles there that we were put into at the casino. Fortunately, I was not involved in any of that because I was in the anti-tank company, and then we changed over to 57mm guns, you know. And we made Casino. We took Casino, and we took that Monte Casino there, and we advanced towards Rome. And we're doing pretty good. We did, thanks to, you know, whatever the maneuvers were and everything, we took Rome. I remember driving into Rome, and it was quiet. Of course, there was things happened once you get in there. You know, it was other, you know, because there's always some kind of rigmarole with who's ever, you know. And we took Rome, and once we got through Rome, I think we were given a break there. And I could be wrong now, but I guess, you know, 50 years ago, I'm pretty good at remembering. But anyhow, we took a break and we were sent back to Lago di Garda, which was a big tourist area. And for like a rest thing. And at that time, the medic in our company, he was allowed to go home. I don't know what was the story there, but he was allowed to go home. But anyhow, he was back anyhow after that. And how enough, I still don't to this day, and I think it's just wonderful. We ran into this family from that lived there, and he was a florist. He had a big greenhouse like I have here, these flowers, you know. And he invited me and two other fellows, the medic and another guy, I think it was 4 of us, or 3 of us I know, for dinner, come to his house. Well, I'm telling you, they put on such a dinner. Of course, it was Italian, actually, but it was beautiful. He went out to his greenhouse, and he dug up a bottle of cognac, and he washed it all off the dirt, and it was stuck in one of those, you know, planters. And we had that, and we all thanked him. And he said, well, it was only walking distance from where we were. He said, no, we'll go back. She said, no, you're not going back. She said, you're going to stay here for the night. I said, gee, you know, I don't remember how we talked, but, you know. She said, oh, no. She took me in the bedroom where I was going. She had put hot bricks in the bed and warmed up the whole bed. So we stayed there that night. I'm telling you, I tell this story to people. I just can't say enough for the Italian family. You know what I mean? Of course, it was a sad story after that. We went back on the line, and that medic was killed by a sniper, right through his helmet, his cross. Sad. And then we advanced further north, you know, and we were close to Bologna or somewhere up in that way, and I was on a reconnaissance with the officer, Lieutenant Philip Wamsley, his name was. Nice man. And I didn't know it at the time, but we were up there driving around these roads here and looking for, you know, observation for what's going on, how we could advance up there, you know, with whatever. And I ran over a German telemine. Luckily, we've been having trouble with those things, and I had sandbagged the floor of the Jeep. So when I ran over the telemine, of course, unfortunately it was on his side, and knocked us both out of the Jeep, really. And what happened was the windshield and our troops, I didn't know it, as I said, was down the bottom of the hill. And they saw all this, there was our maps and everything go up on the windshield, see? And the Germans used to send over these propaganda shells. And they'd say, this is what your wife is doing while you're over here in bed with some other guy, some other thing. So a couple of them ran up the hill. Luckily, they didn't get killed themselves or something, you know. But they ran up the hill, and they found us laying there, you know, and they hollered and brought the medics. And they came, took us down, you know, and took us to Pisa, Italy, to the evacuation hospital there, you know what I mean? And our doctor worked on me, my arm was broke, and my nose was broke. And I didn't know it at the time, but there was other things the matter with me, and So they flew me to Rome. I don't know what happened to the officer at the time. And they flew me to Rome, and I went to the United States Army and taken over this big college, and they made one of these big buildings a hospital. So I was in the hospital there. While I was there, I did wear glasses at the time like you, see, and I said to the nurse there, gee, I'd like to have my glasses, you know. And she said, all right, wait a minute. So she made some kind of arrangement, and I got out of the bed, and I went unconscious. My ribs were broke here. How they never discovered that before when that act, you know. So then they discovered that, and they didn't do a heck of a lot, because there's what you could do with broken ribs here, you know. So they put me back in bed. I did get glasses, I don't know how long it took. And I was in there for 2 months in the hospital. And then, after I was able to be discharged, I was sent to Rebel Depot, you know. And I said, gee, I don't want to, what am I going to do now, you know, in this Rebel Depot? But no, they sent me back to my own company. And I was with them. And then, of course, the war was winding down at that time. And my company clerk came to me and said, Al, he said, you know, you've been through a hell of a lot, he said. The Mediterranean Theater Operation Command is looking for people to supervise these Italians that they're going to use, being the peace is going to come on to, they're going to open up a college or something in France, Italy, and they're looking for men to supervise the Italians in various jobs that they're going to use them. So I said, would you want to do that? So I thought about it. I said, well, I mean, if things is winding down, the war's going to go, I said, yeah, all right. Something I forgot to tell you, you know, while I was back after that, I was in the camp there where my company was, and a German soldier came. He wasn't a young man, he was an old man. He came, he had his hands up, and he said, come around, come around, come around, you know. And here I was going over to take a pee in the trench, you know what I mean. I said, oh my God. So I got a hold of him anyhow, and I brought him over to the officers. And I said, here's a guy who wants to surrender. And he gave me some very important information for our advance, you know what I mean. I found that out later. Well, anyhow, that's before. But I was, so then I was transferred to the Mediterranean Theater Operations Command in Florence, Italy. And I lived in the Florence railroad station in Italy there. It was nice, you had your own little room there and whatnot. And all I did was stand behind these Italians because they used that railroad station as a, troops would come through, they were going to go to courses or something, and you would feed them like a chow line, you know. So all of a sudden they put up a note on the bulletin board that I could go to Switzerland. So the captain said to me, you want to go? He said, just sign the name. So I signed my name, you know. About 2 days later, see, I had 82 points. I didn't have 85. I think it's what was needed at that time to go home. And the next day, or a couple of days later, they put up, there my name was Al Lapp. You can go home. So I said, to this day, I could kick myself. I said, okay, forget Switzerland. But the thing was, I left there thinking I was going to go down to Naples. We'd on the boat and go home right away, right? No, we got down to Naples and there was no boats. We stood there for a whole week. I could have made that trip to Switzerland and came back and still done nothing. Well, and where did I land? Exactly where I came from, Camp Patrick Henry, Virginia. But fortunately, it was a not a long stay there. They were very nice. Well, they had a newspaper, you got the thing, and they give you a nice meal when you got off and all that baloney, you know. And then I was shipped to Fort Dix, New Jersey. And from there I was discharged, you know. And when I think about it, how all the uniforms and all that, these guys were thrown in big heaps like in garbage cans. Oh God, you know. So then I tried to get a train to Long Island. Of course, there was no, the closest I could get to, my wife at that time was living in Hempstead, but with her mother. I couldn't get a train there, so I called as I could get to a phone, and I took a train to Limbrook, which is, you know, 10 or 15 miles from Hempstead. And fortunately, she came and picked me up, you know. And that was the end of my career, you know. Of course, I fought to the Veterans of Foreign Wars, you know. I was a vice commander here in the Morris post there when it first organized. But there was such a terrible bunch of Vietnam guys. It was, oh, were they terrible as far as boobs and that. Geez, it was awful. So our commander, he quit and he joined the Cooperstown post, VFW, and I just kind of dropped out of it too. I went back a couple of times after because some of them guys left. In fact, one of them guys went to Alaska and committed suicide. He was the commander of the post at the time. And I'm still a member. I've been there quite a while. But I belong to the Lawrence American Legion post too. I used to work there doing when they had dinners and that and the other thing, you know. I've been to volunteer fire service for over 50 years, about 50 years, you know, on Long Island. And when I lived up here, I belonged to the Lawrence Fire Department for quite a while. But then I took a couple of part-time jobs while I was up here. I worked for the Baptist Church for 5 years here, and I worked for Ron House, who owned the laundromat down here at nights, and a couple other jobs I did. And then I took a job as head custodian of the Lawrence Central School. The fellow that was there had cancer, and he wasn't coming back, and they needed somebody, so somebody there said to me, why don't you know that, you know, I was superintendent of buildings and grounds down in Long Island prior to big district, you know. And I said, oh yeah, okay. So I applied, and of course, being I was retired from civil service already, it was a little bit of a hassle there. I wanted to do it on a contract basis, see, and I would give them a voucher at the end of the month. But the treasurer there, Doris Anderson, she didn't want that. She wanted me signed up, blah, 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 you know, and I get a paycheck. Well, so I couldn't claim more than $3,500 a year under my state retirement thing at that time. And, well, I took it anyhow. So I stayed there for 4 months. In the meanwhile, I had applied to the Oneonta Job Corps, which is starting up here. And while I was at Lawrence Central School, they called me and they said, Mr. Lapp, we picked you for a job as supervisor of maintenance here. So I wrote my resignation. It was a $9,000 boost in salary, you know. And I went to work here for a job corps. It was a nice job. The director of the Dave McWigan was the director. He's from Colorado, but he was a very good guy. And
well, let's go back for a minute. What did you do when you got home right after World War II?
After World War II,
Yeah,
after I came back home, what did I do? Oh yeah, well, I didn't do much for a while. And then we rented a house in East Rockaway. My wife and I. My wife was, you know, and I looked for jobs, you know. I had passed the postal exam, but it was a job that if they wanted you, if they didn't want you, you know what I mean? It was not a steady thing. So I went to work for the bus company. And I worked for them. I was on a night shift driving the bus from Mineola to Freeport. It was a commuter run, like, you know what I mean? And I was doing that, and in the meanwhile, I took the civil service exam for custodian, and I passed. So the Malvern School District called me. I left the bus company. I went to work, for the Malvern School District. And I worked in the high school there in Malvern, and I worked in the Linda Place School there. And then I had an opportunity to get a job. No, I stayed there, that's right. And the guy where we rented this nice bungalow from worked for the United States government, and he was in Bermuda. He worked for the government down there, because the war had ended, see? And he was coming back, so he said, I'd like to, he wants his house back, so we had to get out. So my wife was working with this woman, and she said she lived in Valley Stream off of Cochran Place, and she said, well, a neighbor had a house there, and he was going to rent part of it, see? So we went down and looked at it. He was a florist. He worked somewhere down in the city, on the docks there or something. He made floor painting, blah, blah, blah. And so and he had a young daughter. I don't know where the wife problem was. There was some kind of problem. Anyhow, so we rented, you know, we shared the house with him on the way. But he was such a terrible guy, and I think he was abusing that girl sexually too, that little daughter of his. But anyhow, we finally, that's when we bought the house in Merrick. We found this house in Merrick, and we bought that house and we moved to Merrick, and that's where I stayed until after that I went to work for the high school district in Merrick. I got, you know, then I went from there and became superintendent of buildings and grounds, Oyster Bay, East Norwich, over in the North Shore. And I retired from there in 1978, and I didn't want to retire, but my wife was up here alone, and she said, I came up on an Easter vacation, and I said, she said to me, you're going to retire, because if you don't retire now, you'll never retire. If I let you go back now, you'll never retire, you know. So I got on the phone and called my boss down in Oyster Bay. I said, Don, I'm not coming back. He said, Al, you can't do that. I said, I know, Don, but my wife is up here all alone. She wants me to retire. I was going to retire, see, in July, but this was, you know, before that. And so he said, you better get some kind of statement from somebody. So I drove down to Long Island, went to my doctor, Dr. Bugash, and I said, told the story. He said, it's all right, Al. So he wrote me a letter that so I took it into the office. That was it. They packed all my gear from my office in a big box and sent it up to me, which I felt very bad, but my wife was just at that point, so, of course.
But children, did you have any children?
Did I have? Yes, I have. 2 boys and a girl. And, of course, my daughter was married. And my son was married, he was up here. My other son bought my house. He was married, he bought my house in Merrick. His wife wasn't too happy to buy it, but they looked around and she finally said, oh yeah, this isn't too bad, you know what I mean? Of course, it's a beautiful home, but I sold it to him for $10,000 less than I was going to sell it to anybody else, any stranger. But, so he bought the house, so he's still there, you know. My son has his home up here. My daughter lives in Coram on the North Shore of Suffolk County, you know. She works for Stony Brook College, and her husband is an environmental engineer. And my son is Deputy Commissioner of Sanitation in the town of Hempstead. And his wife works for, she used to work for, she works for a lawyer, but she used to work for Senator Norman Levy. He passed away here quite a while ago. And she still works for his wife on the side, with this, plus this lawyer that she does work for. Of course, this guy doesn't do anything because he can't work anymore because his wife is blind. She had the cancer, and in order to get rid of the cancer, they put chemo all the way through her. And of course, it went up here. And they told her if they didn't do this with this chemo business, she might as well figure she was going to die. So that's what she did. And she's blind at this point. You know, if you look at her, you would never know what she does, you know. But of course, she's alive. And that's my story.
Well, let's go back and let me ask you.
Yeah, sure.
Now, you grew up in East Rockaway.
Yes.
You went over the war and you came back, and that was right around the time. How different was East Rockaway from when you were a boy to those years after World War II, when suburbia started to grow?
Oh, it was a lot different. Things were more built up around, you know what I mean, the stores and other things there, and there was changes in politics, and I tell you the truth, I didn't stay there that long because, as I said, that guy that I rented the house from in East Rockaway there where I lived, my mother and father lost their home because after the Depression, you know what I mean? And my father passed away with lung cancer. At that time, they didn't know nothing about chemotherapy or anything else, you know, and he was in Meadowbrook Hospital, and then he was out of the hospital a year after he passed away, and then my mother lived with me a while, and her and my wife didn't get along, and she moved out on her own, and she moved to Limbrook, which is only another town away from East Rockaway, and had her own apartment there. And my sister called me one night and said, "Mom's having a heart attack." So I drove over to Limbrook and went upstairs to where she was in the apartment. She didn't want me to call the Limbrook Fire Department ambulance, but the police department came along with the ambulance. And I said, "Mom, it's coming." So that's when I called, and because they sent it to Meadowbrook Hospital, which was a big county hospital. And she was there for quite a while. I used to go visit her every night after work on her way home from Oyster Bay. And she finally, the doctor there, I didn't know it, said to her, "You're not going to go home. You can't go home anymore." And that was the end of her. She was a tough German. Finished. She died. She was 82 years old. So that was the end of that story. Of course, my father was already passed away, and my sister lived in Queens. No, not Queens. Yeah, I get Queens. I'm not too familiar with the city, but she lived in the city, and she worked for Chase Manhattan Bank. And my other sister, Marion, I guess she was married to Eddie. She lived out in North Babylon. And my son was up, I guess he was up here already, yeah.
So, did you see a lot of changes from Long Island when you were a boy to Long Island after the war?
Oh yeah, sure.
Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, you see the traffic there is unbelievable. The building, the development, where I live, where I bought, all that land down there was all built, development after development, and what do you call them, malls, or what, you know, yeah, all over the place, you know, unbelievable, unbelievable. I got a motel to stay in, and it's unbelievable, unbelievable. Well, as I said, I was superintendent of the grounds over at Oyster Bay, East Norwich, and I was assistant superintendent in Belmont Barracks Central High School district before I went over there to Oyster Bay. And it's all changed. Even that district, the high school district's changed. They closed one. It used to have Brookside, Merrick Avenue, Jerusalem Avenue, and Grandad, 4 junior highs. They only have 3 now. The one, Jerusalem Avenue, was rented to a Jewish outfit that runs a school in there. The Brookside is closed. It's the senior citizens area and administrative officers for the high school district. And the other 2, they don't even call them junior highs anymore. They call them middle schools. They still have the 3 high schools. And
There's another question for you. You were working in the schools after World War II. Do you remember during the 50s and 60s, there was a big thing about civil defense and fallout shelters? Did you see a lot of that in the schools?
oh yeah, oh yeah. There was, signs up, and then they had drills too, you know what I mean? About going to the hallway and blah, 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 and all the other, oh yeah.
Did you have to do anything in your job differently because of all that? You had to stock anything in the
Gee,
shelter?
not that I can really remember. I mean, to be honest with you, I can't think so. Maybe there was things, but it doesn't into my brain at the moment.
Well, we're coming down to the last few minutes of the tape. So is there anything you'd like to add, something that really sticks out in your mind all these years later about your World War II experiences?
Well, I don't think that some of these younger people today understand how tough it was years ago and how wonderful this country is. This is the greatest country in the world. I mean it. And that's they have it so good here, that they never had to go through some of the tough that lots of people, and in my years in the service, because I had people from Tennessee and West Virginia, from the hills back there, and other things. And these kids today in this area, even around here, in this, what do you want to call it, area, they just don't realize how lucky they are to be in this great country. That's my thing. It bothers me when you see these things that go on, shooting and this and that and the other thing. I don't understand it. I don't know where the parental control or whatever the hell there is there. I don't know. I just don't know.
Are you proud about having served in World War II?
Oh, you better believe it. You better
Do
believe
you think
it.
it made a difference?
Huh?
Did it make a difference?
I think so. I definitely do.
Did it make a difference in your life?
Well,
Your having been in the service?
I think so. I appreciate this country. I appreciate a lot of things that I have. And I thank God that I'm still here, that I survived by accident or explosion or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. I have the Purple Heart. I'm entitled to the Bronze Star, according to what they tell me.
One last question. How did you hear about this interview program and why did you decide to volunteer?
I don't know, did I get a letter or something in the mail or something, and I wrote this application or something. I think
Right.
I sent it in.
We wouldn't have sent you the application unless you had called first and asked for one.
I guess I did. There was a phone number, it was an 800 number or whatever it
Yeah.
was, and I called it, I don't think if I got this gentleman, I don't know who I got, I must have got somebody. And meanwhile, I've talked to him a couple of times, you know what I mean? And you're right. I did call, you're right, hey.
Why did you volunteer?
Huh?
Why did you volunteer for the program?
Well, I don't know, I thought it was something that you wanted to boost the veterans or whatever, you know what I mean? You felt so that there was nothing being done. I mean, all right, there's the Legion and there's the VFW and I get their paper and they're always boosting, the veterans and our country. And that's just the way I I didn't know what it was gonna be all about anyhow. I took a chance, you know what I mean? I figured I'm a victim. If I can help, let me let them know, you know. If they don't want me, they don't want me, but there's nothing I can do, you know.
Well, we're glad you could come by. Thank you very much.
I thank you.